I'm Sheza, and I'm a senior at Mount Holyoke, and I'm a psych major. So for me, the experience of being Asian American, or just being Asian, has always kind of been about being somewhere where I can embrace my cultural values and practice my culture every single day without being ostracized for, or without feeling like I'm a freak. And let's be honest, I think that that's one of the greatest things about nations like the US, like the UK, Australia, any of these places where there's freedom. Since the election, right, I think that socially amongst my peers, I have not really experienced the type of backlash and discrimination that I think a lot of people have felt. However, the fear and the anxiety has definitely gone up, especially like amongst with my parents, right? So my parents are like, don't post too much on social media about your political beliefs and all this stuff, and kind of show that you're a little bit more patriotic. It's a big bone of contention in my household. My parents are like, you have to not make yourself stand out. And I was like, here's the thing, this is the best part about this country, about any country, is that I don't have to do that. I can be who I am. And I will continue to wear my shalwar kameezes. I will continue to kind of voice political beliefs when it comes to equality. I think that the patriotism and being a human being, they're two totally different things. When we talk about patriotism, when we talk about kind of giving people rights, I feel like these rights are human rights. These aren't just for Americans. These aren't just for people who are undocumented. This is about human beings. So at the end of the day, I shouldn't have to prove my patriotism. My citizenship, my patriotism should not be called into question, because at the end of the day, you don't have to assimilate to be a good human being. I think that's the whole beauty of any nation on this planet, or any nation that has freedom, is that they accept you for what you are. You're not forced to assimilate in any way. We don't have to wear jeans. We don't have to, speak English or as our mother tongue. I sound very comfortable in English, but I'm much more comfortable in Urdu as well. So that all matters, and I think that this idea that we have to learn English and that we have to be perfect in English, we have to wear jeans, we have to kind of perpetuate or promote Western culture, is a mentality of idolizing the people who have colonized us. Whether we're talking about the US, whether we're talking about India, whether we're talking about Pakistan, Africa, it doesn't matter. All of these nations have been colonized, and the mentality of idolizing the colonizer is not just prevalent in this country, it's prevalent in almost every country. I go back to Pakistan and I've seen it. In all walks of life, this is becoming a very, very prevalent phenomenon, and I just don't believe that that's something that should be promoted, because diversity is such a blessing. Whether you're talking about America, whether you're talking about UK, it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to say that Westernization is bad, but there are 7 billion people on this planet, and people should do things differently. In Trump's era, we have to be strong, right? And I think that love is always, it sounds very, very hippie, but love is always stronger than hate. I think that the narrative that we should be trying to promote here is A, live and let live, and B, just kind of educating ourselves. One of the major drawbacks here is that we have a lot of ignorance. There's this whole idea, right, that the more you expose yourself to people of other cultures, of other faiths, the more learned you'll be, and the more tolerant you'll be, and I think that's absolutely true. That is something that we should be working towards, but along with that, I think we should also take a step back and remember that you don't have to have exposure or meet someone or know someone of a certain faith or culture to fight for their basic human rights. Forget American rights, forget British rights, forget anyone else's rights. These are human rights. These are basic human necessities, and that's what we have to think about, that you don't have to know someone to fight for their rights, because that's what equality is about. And the minute that you don't advocate for everyone's rights, that's the minute that the oppressors win. During the entire campaign, there were people who were either for women's rights, or they were for Muslims' rights, or it wasn't that everyone cared about every single right, and that's why they hated Trump. There were very few people who I think were universally opposed to everything that he said. To say that him mocking a disabled person is more offensive than him insulting women or insulting Muslims, that gives a hierarchy to the bigotry that he has inflicted upon the U.S. There is no hierarchy. Everything that he has said about Muslims, about women, about immigrants, no matter what, everything is, for me at least, equally offensive. I would never say that because I'm a Muslim, I'm most offended by what he said about Muslims. Because I'm a South Asian, I'm most offended about what he said about Pakistanis and terrorists and things like that. I can't be. I have to be equally offended about what he said about Mexicans, about what he has said about women. I can't, or about disabled people. I can't do it. I can't. That gives me a privilege, right? That's for me. That's privilege. I don't necessarily have to worry about, like an African American person who's being shot in the street, that's a privilege that I have. But on the other hand, you know, other people have privilege as well, and that really matters. So we cannot allow this narrative and this bigotry to create a hierarchy for what is most offensive and what's not. It's all offensive, and we can't normalize it.